the last session, and thank you for those who have managed to submit their assignments and their audits. I'll talk to you a little bit more about those shortly and give some feedback and advice and the like, and I'll run through a few different things. But what we've asked David Williamson from the Victorian Government, the Department of Transport, to just pop his head in and say hi and give a few bits of information about what the Victorian Government is doing associated with road safety infrastructure assessments and road safety audits and the like. And I know that some of you are from other jurisdictions, and David, we should have mentioned that. We've got some Queenslanders, we've got some New Zealanders, but quite a few Victorians. Is there somebody from South Australia too? Yeah, I think there is. We've got a South Australian, but quite a few Victorians. So we'll hand it over to you, David, for a little window into that. And I should also mention that David sits on a lot of different national sort of committees thinking about road safety auditing and the best practice in road safety infrastructure at an Australian level or at a national level. So he's got some insight into that wider perspective as well. Over to you, David.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Right, so there's a fair bit happening in the space of both road safety auditing and safe system assessments. And you've obviously talked a lot about safe system in this course, and safe system assessments are becoming a popular way or a common way, particularly in Victoria, of assessing road safety risk. And it's really relevant to road safety auditing as well, because we're setting up our policies and practices so that both of them sit beside each other and they complement each other. So the way we're moving in Victoria is that, particularly for major projects, where our policies are that safe system assessments are required as early as possible in the project development life cycle. And that's sort of typically when you're looking at options assessment and you're doing concept development. And at that stage, we believe that safe system assessments have got a lot more applicability compared to a road safety audit. So where we're heading with our major projects is that we would be doing a safe system assessment in the early part of the development phase, often as part of a business case development. And later on, we would do the road safety audits, which would complement those earlier safe system assessments. So previous policy on major projects is that we do road safety audits at all stages. So from concept right through to pre or post opening. So that's changing a bit in Victoria. And we're also currently looking at our policies, both in relation to safe system assessments and road safety audits going forward. So there'll be some changes in that space, probably over the next 6 to 12 months, I'd say. Along with that, as Ken may have already mentioned, is that the part 6 of the Austroads Guide is under review. That's the Road Safety Audit Guide. And what that's doing is orienting road safety audits towards the safe system approach and safe system thinking. Now, in that space, this is really going to affect you all if you're going to be seeking accreditation in Victoria as a road safety auditor following this course, and hopefully following a bit more experience as well. So what we're planning to do is to introduce an e-learning modules into our requirements to be registered as a road safety auditor. So what we will require is that to be newly registered, or for those that are already on the register, that there'll be a period of time where we will expect that all potential registries going forward will do those e-learning modules. And I think it's 6 modules. Not exactly sure how long they take each, but probably around about half an hour or so. So that'll be an additional requirement, at least in the short term, maybe in the longer term when safe system is embedded even more into the road safety auditing process. We may take that requirement out, but that's going to happen in the short term. I would expect that we will be introducing that sometime early this year. The modules are all designed, they're nearly ready to go, so it's a matter of just implementing those. So that's, I guess that's just a bit of an overview of what's happening in the space at the time. As I said, quite a lot happening through the as I suppose a bit of an offshoot from the Austroads guide. We're also investigating with other jurisdictions whether we have a more harmonised approach to competency development across Australia, and to change the situation which currently exists where a road safety auditor might be registered in one state but may not be able to practice in another state because of different requirements. But that's something that'll probably develop in the not the immediate future, but maybe in 12 months or so. Okay, I think that's about it, unless there's any questions that anybody has, or anything else you want me to comment on, Ken?
I know you've done well there, David. But I'll give a second for anybody to have pop a question into the chat, or even pop their hand up if they want to ask a question, and we can unmute them. But yeah, so I think this group's very well primed to do that e-learning module. We've incorporated a lot of those principles into the course these days, and so I've had a little sneaky look at what might be in that e-learning stuff, and we're very aligned with that, which is wonderful. So it doesn't appear to be any questions coming in at this stage. So I'll thank you, David, and we're going to keep running through some of our final content, and then they're going to submit their audits, and we'll move them on. Hang on, we do have a question here. Just for clarification, is the Victorian Department of Transport learning thing just for accreditation in Victoria? So this would be the e-learning.
Yeah, the e-learning modules are just a requirement in Victoria. That's right.
Yeah, so I'm going to, in this session, cover off how sort of some of the requirements in the jurisdictions, and that's, I suppose, will be a window into the desire for some harmonisation, because there's quite a bit of varied requirements across Australia and New Zealand in the sort of training requirements, the proof of competency, the then registration, and the updating requirements, and the like. So I'll cover off some of that, and I'll explain a little bit further if anybody has questions about what's happening in other jurisdictions. The Victorian database does have a lot of other people from other states on it, doesn't it, David? And that's okay.
It is, and generally speaking, if somebody's registered in another state, we would normally accept that accreditation. But I must admit, we haven't given any thought as to whether we might require somebody from another state to go through the e-learning modules or not. And we'll probably give some thought to that moving forward.
Good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, David. Yeah, thanks for dropping in. Have a wonderful rest of the day and weekend.
Okay, thanks, Ken, and to all your participants. Enjoy the course.
Thanks. Okay. Well, we'll continue on, and We will get a bit more clarity around some of that Victorian stuff and how you can register on the different jurisdictions' registers of road safety auditors and those sorts of things. So that's good. But I thought first thing we might do here is just spend a little bit of time recapping what you've covered so far in this course. And instead of me running through some slides about that, I'm just going to give you maybe 3 minutes to just have a think about some of the things that we've covered. And I want you to jot down into the chat or the Q&A just one takeaway that you've found quite interesting, quite enlightening. It could be a concept that we covered. It could be a specific treatment. It could be, but it could also be something that you maybe want more information on, or you're not quite convinced on. Just something that sort of stuck with you a little bit from our past modules. And I want you to type that into the chat, and just one thing. And I've got a random few points on a slide coming up of a few different things, and they were completely picked at random. And if you happen to match one of those, chance to win a prize, keeping you on the edge of your seats here. So just have a think about that, and we'll give you a few minutes, just a quiet time to have a think and then to jot something into the chat. You could look back in your notes if you want. I'll give you another minute. We've got some great ones that have come in. Okay. Great. All right. I'm just going to run through a few of these, and I really like some of the things that have captured people's attention and that they remember. And hopefully, as you're walking or riding or driving around the road network now, you're even seeing more things and picking up more stuff as you go along. So we had a good one there from Joshua about the idea that introducing things into the roadside could be a greater hazard than what they mitigate, and we certainly want to avoid that. So that is a good thing to be looking at. Dominic sort of mentioned there that even that small thing of the gap in the roundabout sign giving an indication of the direction of travel around the roundabout, a subtle clue. And that one to me is sort of used as an example of almost this human factors and behavioral psychology and things that influence us to do things on the road network that, you know, we've all driven past thousands of these signs in our time. And we've probably never noticed that specific detail, but it may be something that can influence some people. An interesting one. Good, I'm glad that was remembered. Looking for issues from the perspective of all different road users. So another wonderful takeaway message there. We've got one in there. So Andrew, slide 52 on day one, being the recipe for a road safety audit finding, the issue, crash, risk factor, etc. Now, first of all, on that, I love the word recipe. I always refer to it as the formula, but I like recipe far better. I'm going to use that. And yeah, I put that together to try to just help people sort of new to that way of writing up what's in their mind about this issue. And what we find is that people who are very good at picking an issue, but the actual sort of putting that into a logical form as an audit finding can be a challenge. So glad that that was a highlight there. The kinetic energy thresholds were seen as very interesting to Adrian. That's great. And that is really one of the newest things to be heavily injected into road safety auditing. And we're still seeing the vast majority of road safety auditors out there and really not embracing that as much as we would like. And so with the way we've been setting out road safety audits and the way we teach it is certainly to extract out that energy tolerance level, the kinetic energy level in that column of the road safety audit report, which some of you have already done and some are still working on. So it's in your face that you need to think about the severity of these incidents that you are predicting. Ken's put in there a great one about it not being a check against standards. Excellent. Another excellent point that we may refer back to standards when they're the appropriate thing to help guide us on safety, but it's not simply just check against standards. It's that standing back, that looking, that taking in the whole scene, that looking at it from every road user's perspective, putting yourself in the shoes of a pedestrian, a cyclist, a motorcyclist, and really feeling what could be issues here. We've got here, so the different road users and the specific considerations that we think about the cyclists, the motorcyclists, and something that can often be forgotten. So that's another good one. The attention to detail required, and that is a good one. And I really stress that when you're out doing an audit, it can take quite a bit of time, and you need to allow yourself that time to really sort of work through these things. These detailed design road safety audits where you get the chunky design set and you're spending a lot of time there and going out on site and looking through all these plans. It takes time, but it's really, really worthwhile. Yeah, so a few more people are really talking about that all road users perspective, and I'm really happy that that's being seen as a highlight there. Yeah, so picking up issues early in a project, and again, David Williamson was talking about safe system assessments, which are another process with a lot of similarities to a road safety audit, but some extra sort of elements and ways of presenting things and a few other things. So these both injected early in a project can really help things out. And thinking about construction site road safety audits and ensuring that we're not just thinking about the safety of the workers, but we're thinking about the safety of the travelling public, be that somebody in a car, on a bike, in a wheelchair, anybody travelling around, and we need to think about their safety. So that's some really fantastic stuff, and we've got a couple more in here. The checklists and the amount of information in those checklists, so Jeff's found them very helpful, which is good. And I really do encourage people new to auditing to go through those checklists, use them as a prompt to make sure you're thinking about a whole raft of things as you go about doing your road safety audits. I also strongly, it's going to be required of you that when you're out there new to auditing, that you partner up and be part of a team with an experienced auditor. You start out your auditing career in a sort of almost cadetship style, where you are a road safety auditor, but the team leader is a senior road safety auditor, somebody who's got a level of experience in doing this. So that's that's wonderful stuff. Yeah, and so Jeff's also popped in there sort of this amazing amount of stuff to learn associated with road safety and infrastructure, and that is absolutely true. And it's a lifelong adventure, really. You just keep learning and learning. And certainly in my 20 odd years in the industry, have been continuing to learn a lot, and I love partnering up with colleagues who have areas of specialist knowledge that I really don't have, and learning from them. And certainly, that's one of our aims at Safe System Solutions, is to provide these sort of training courses where we can delve into these different pockets of information, be that road safety barriers, because there's just days and days of information on that. Well, years and years, but you can condense it into some principles in days, or be that roundabout design or specific motorcycle stuff. So there's lots of stuff for us to continue to learn, and lots of resources available to you for that continuing learning. I think Austroads is doing a really good job with their webinars and making those webinars available to everybody, so you can go in and freely access sort of 1 hour information sessions on different topics, and the continual research reports that come out. We certainly send out little snippets of information a lot, and we'll make sure you're all made aware of those. And there's a huge raft of other ways to keep yourself up to speed. So it's an exciting opportunity, and it's really it's one of the most rewarding in my mind, because we know we're sort of saving people's lives and their health, and improving and hopefully preventing serious injuries and fatalities. So that's awesome. So that's one of the things I like to do, just to check people are starting to take things out of this course, or find it relevant or helpful. And I'm really reassured on that we're getting the right messages out, and you're picking those up. So I've been through and I've marked all of the assignments that came in, and I'm 90% through the audits that have come in now. And so I've provided you with feedback, written feedback, and a score out of 100. And remember, you need to get that 80% pass mark, or used to be above 80%. So there are some of you who I've asked to resubmit. You haven't quite got to that bar yet, and I've provided lots of feedback on some of the things for you to continue to work on, and encourage you to get in contact so we can keep working on that, because our aim is to make sure you're all up there at that 80% plus bar. So when you jump into Schoology, you just have a look in the grade book, and you'll see the comments and the marks there. And all you do to do a resubmission is you can update the one you submitted before with some of the, fixing some of the things that I've provided that feedback on, and then you just resubmit it as submission 2, and then we will we'll review and mark that one. And yeah, for the others that that have achieved that 80% mark, I provided you some feedback. If there were still some bits that could be massaged, could be done a little bit better in my opinion. Yes, you could if you wanted to resubmit, but we will be providing you your certificate electronically and sending through any prizes that you've won along the journey. Now, Kathy, have I missed anything from that sort of admin perspective before I cover off a few different slides and things about road safety auditing around the country and the like?
No, just a big shout out to everyone for managing to get that road safety audit report in over the last week. I know it's a hectic time of year, so well done. Yeah,
very impressed with that, and the amount of detail and the way people have presented those audit reports is really, really great in terms of you've taken time to do that, and you've done exactly what I was hoping, with snips of design and drawing it so it's clear, and yeah, really, really good stuff. I think the actually I got this open. No, I'll show that to you in a little bit. Just a couple of resource documents that might help you out a little bit in some of the areas that people tripped up a little bit on in terms of putting together those audit reports. Okay, let me show some slides. This session we only ever scheduled for an hour and a half. It's sort of our wrap-up session. I think we blocked out 2 hours in your calendar, but the Schoology and the agenda and everything was only an hour and a half. But what we do have is quite an opportunity there for questions, for us to revisit areas. And so we're really encouraging on this one people to put their hand up to speak. So if you just press, raise hand, and then Kathy will find you and allow you to then unmute yourself and ask questions, make comments or the like, or put things into the chat. Even if they're a little bit off topic or the like, we can delve down any rabbit hole you'd like. And no doubt there are others in the group that have some insights into different questions or comments. So I'd be keen for not just me to give my opinion, but for others to have their say as well. So I'm just going to bring up a few slides for today, and hopefully that'll work there. And Kathy, I did say some prizes. Now this is going to probably test you, because you're going to have to go back through the comments that came in and see who said any of these. But here were just randomly 6 things that I picked, completely random, out of the course learning objectives that we have in the background, to sort of key things we want to make sure people are getting. That idea that it's an audit's proactive, and then the black spot crash investigation thing is the reactive style process. Those 8 distinct steps of auditing. I just popped in Sharrows because I was thinking about cyclists. We got into the cyclist section. I popped in Sharrows, that shared arrow. Dynamic visual obstruction or masking. These are very specific issues. Pedestrian desire lines. So where are the pedestrians and where do they want to go, and draw that line, and that's pretty much what they're going to want to take. And then the severity of injury and the safe system tolerances. And I know that one was mentioned, Kathy, so I think that'll be our prize winner, whoever covered that one off. So this module, we will want to talk about the different accreditation systems around Australia and New Zealand for road safety auditors. So that qualification as such that you get and how you then progress up in different levels of auditor accreditation. And understand the process for registering in Victoria and South Australia. They're the jurisdictions I'm going to cover in this. And some information on some potential legal risks associated with auditing, or if you're in a position where you're procuring audits, you're getting people to do audits for your projects as well. So I'll cover off a few things, and I'll probably, no, I will start with that. I'll start with some of these sort of legal aspects. You know now what the process is, that you're independent, you do an audit with a team, you report it, you hand it back to the project manager and the designer, and then they take it and then they implement changes in their project. So it's an easy sort of clear process, but with anything, we need to be a little bit aware of some of the ramifications on that. So I'm just going to cover off some of these legal aspects. Now, I have a disclaimer down here to say that I'm not a lawyer. This is general advice, which I've gathered through my many years in the policy areas of road authorities with managing road safety audits, and also doing a lot of road safety audits and being present in the coroner's court quite a few times with different issues representing different road authorities, or as also as an auditor in legal cases and as an expert witness. So that's the sort of context, but I do stress that you have to get your own legal advice from your jurisdiction and your authority if you're making any decisions on this. But I'm just going to share some of my learnings for your information, and it's very short. And I've broken it down into two things. One are the possible legal issues associated with being a road safety auditor, and how, as an auditor, things could happen. And the other is that flip side of you being the purchaser, the procurer, the person who's getting the audit done on your project or your design. So let's focus first on the auditor, and you are going to get your certificates from this, and then you need to go through another couple of steps in terms of basically filling out forms and the like, and then you'll be sort of stamped a registered road safety auditor, at least in Victoria and South Australia if you want. So the first thing is that I say is a big warning is what I term a client-focused audit, or a soft audit, I'll call it. Client-focused, I think, is a better term than soft audit. And this is the concept that a big developer is needing a road safety audit because the road authority says, well, your big development is accessing onto the arterial road network, and we want to make sure that's safe for the travelling public. And we need you to get an independent road safety audit. And so they then look on the register of road safety auditors. They find you because you're in their area or the like, or they've got some quotes and you are one of them, and you're successful, and then they sort of get you in and they say, right, this is the project, this is what it's doing, this is why we're doing it, and we've got no money to spend on any of these any changes to that design. It's we're already over budget, and so all we want out of you is issues that you might pick up that are going to be signs and lines, and that's it. Like we can't do anything else, so don't put anything else in the report. And if you even entertain that idea of sort of altering your views and your perceptions of safety and things that could and should be rectified, you're into very, very dangerous territory there. So inadequate brief is a little bit of a murky one. And really, as an auditor, you sort of you get information that you're given, and you may ask for more information, and they may not be able to give that to you, or they don't for some reason or another. It's not the biggest danger. I mean, there'd be extreme situations if they were to say, we want you to do a detailed design road safety audit of this intersection, and then they hand you a concept design, or they say, oh, well, it'll just be to the Austroads guide, it'll conform with that, so just do that detailed design, or something like that. You know, that would be obviously inadequate in terms of the information you've got in the brief and the like. But as an auditor, you know, you ask for what you would like. If you suspect those swept paths are wrong, you would ask for that. And if they're not providing it, you know, you could just simply put into your audit report, no swept paths were provided, and that the recommendation should be swept path diagrams are created and checked, you know, that this can all function correctly. So misleading your qualifications or experience, this is very much a thing across the board in all professions and industries, really. I suppose that the one we've got here is that there's some pretty serious health trauma outcomes if things go wrong on the roads, as we know. So even, you know, saying that you're a senior road safety auditor when you're not on a register as a senior auditor, or saying that you have 10 years, you know, detailed design experience when you don't have that, those are obviously very problematic or issues, or potentially big issues legally. Not following the correct process. So not going to the site, not going to the site during the day and the night, if that has been the agreement in the you know, in the scope of the audit. Yeah, not visiting the site is a big one, and not following your own organisation's quality management processes, whatever those are. So not visiting the site is probably one that I think is going to rear its head a bit more. I mean, obviously with Street View and things like that, now people are very tempted not to get out there, but we're still very entrenched in, you know, it's clearly spelt out in the guidelines that visiting the site is required. Now, if your client is saying, absolutely not, we're not paying for you to go out to Mount Isa to just look at a splitter island, what I would strongly suggest is that you don't term it a road safety audit. You just call it a road safety review or the like. Now, the not going out at night one, this one does have that sort of clause to get out of that within the Austroads one. But I still would very clearly write, no nighttime inspection was undertaken at the request of client, if we weren't going to do that. And then it appears you are just immediately held to a reasonable assessment, whatever that means in the courts, as a road safety auditor. There is no, like, yes, you're going to be part of a team, but as soon as you're out there auditing, if you're the one signing these things off, you're held to that reasonable level. And the sort of legal team, when I was at the Victorian Road Authority, Vic Roads, used to sort of always say, yeah, no, as soon as they're registered road safety auditors, no training wheels, they're out there. Now, I suppose the training wheels are that you're a road safety auditor and that you're in a team with a senior auditor. So maybe you do have some training wheels, or at least you're not the one signing off the end of that audit report. So there are some challenges or potential legal issues for auditors. The other one, I suppose, which is more the ones that I've been involved in, one of the ones which I did audit, and there was an incident and everything sort of came back together, and it was really the audit, me being pulled in there was not a big part of what was going on, but the audit was discovered, and then I was brought in. And this one was lucky, because what I audited, and I had very clear, as part of the team, what I had very clear documentation on the plan number that was audited, the date of it, and I had a copy of that as well in the file. And so what was built was very, very different to what was audited, and because of many changes along the journey of the development of a project, so that it became sort of an irrelevant part of that case. So that was a bit of an eye opener and the like, and then certainly we've seen some legal issues, a bit more around road authorities and lack of practice, good practices in terms of engaging auditors and getting independent audits done at stages, and like recommendations just not being acted on in any way, shape or form. Yeah, Kathy, questions?
Yeah, comment. So just in regards to client-focused audits you spoke about earlier, comment is, can see how there may be commercial imperatives for being a soft auditor for, repeat work, for example. Perhaps perceived, perhaps not. An observation, though, is that I've never seen a road safety auditor have their accreditation removed, which is perhaps reflective that there is no process for auditing the auditors.
Yeah, it is a very good point. So there are commercial implications, and that developer that I used in the hypothetical might be saying, you do this one well, and we've got 25 developments planned around the state in the next 3 years, and you can be our auditor for all of them if we do things well. But if you give me a bad report that makes me do things, it's going to end. So yes, there are these sort of things. I suppose you can get that sort of stuff in most industries, dodginess, and you're very much putting your professional reputation on the line in any entertaining anything like that. And a lot of us are registered or chartered engineers and the like, who have signed up to all sorts of codes of conduct and the like. So in general, across my reviews of audits, I couldn't ever find particular evidence of that. I had suspicions of some of that sort of stuff going on, and it's very hard to tell whether it was just incompetence or genuine dodginess. But generally, I would say the industry is very good from this perspective, and it's because people understand this and have had these sorts of discussions and understand that we're dealing with people's lives and their safety, and so understand the responsibility and do really, really good job of it. But in terms of, has an auditor ever been had their accreditation taken away from them, I am also not aware of any, apart from through different processes that some jurisdictions go through in terms of giving you, requiring a refresher course, or like Victoria is about to do with the e-learning. And so what will inevitably happen is that they've got about 600 registered road safety auditors, and I dare say that once they put out an e-learning module that takes a few hours to do, with the different 5 bits, and it'll probably take you an hour and a half or something if you know what you're doing, or an hour. But I think they'll drop that down to a couple of hundred auditors, really, because there's a lot of people who like the idea of being a road safety auditor, and they don't, and are on the register. And I'll show you shortly, like the Victorian register, once you're on, well, for the last at least 15 years, you just sit there. You're an auditor. Yes, you will drop from senior status down if you don't do audits, but you'll be an auditor. So that's a good, that's a good way to sort of weed through a bit of stuff. But yeah, haven't seen anybody I have seen companies taken off pre-qualification lists for different things that have happened, but individual auditors, no, haven't seen that. So as a road authority or a developer or somebody who's the customer, the purchaser of an audit, some things could be inadequate, or I suppose, or misleading brief. So holding back information that would be relevant to the audit, or giving purposely different information to get better outcomes. Requesting recommendations. So that's another no-no. And this one will come up as you get into auditing. They'll come in and they'll say, oh, I want you to do an audit on this, and I want you to recommend this, 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 and this, and don't recommend this and this. And you go, well, okay. Thanks for your ideas. I'll audit it, and I'll go about my recommendations and the like as we see fit. So then the big one is not doing something with that audit report. Once it comes back in and it's got that blank column that says you need to accept this, reject it, defer it, and if you're committing to altering something in your design, in your plan or existing roads, that's sort of got to be followed through. That one, my legal advisors at the road authorities used to call it the smoking gun. And if something happens out there, they're after the smoking guns. And if there's an audit report sitting in a shelf with recommendations that haven't been actioned, the other legal team will be just rubbing their hands together. Excuse me. The means of prioritization. So this one's really about the courts having an understanding and an acceptance that there are limited funds out there. Can't have everything. However, what they're not sympathetic to is no sort of meaningful way to prioritize investment. So if you're getting audits coming in and it's just randomly picking the things that you're going to action, that's not great. Now, you're lucky because a road safety audit comes in with risk ratings. So there's an immediate assistance. Yes, the costs are going to be different on the ideas and the like, so you're going to need to factor that in. And but having some way to prioritize that is good. And the one that we used to do a lot of at Vic Roads was to have a good, clear mechanism for audit findings that were not part of the project, but we liked, and we wanted to put into future programs when the funding became available. And so that was a bit of a process we had implemented. Now, I know different jurisdictions have ways to collect, or different road authorities have ways to collect these and centralize these recommendations. It's a very administratively heavy task to do that. And so a lot of organizations sort of abandon it or push it back to the regions. But it's about ensuring that everybody out there is actioning these and at least filling out, if they're not going to do something, which they don't have to, why they're not going to do it or how they've managed risk in another way. And then just a general reasonable process, which is sort of what we've been talking about there. So there, I'll pause again there because they're just really the two sort of main slides I was going to bring up around some of those legal things that I've seen or been involved in. But I do stress that, if you're in New Zealand, you want to get your own take on the legal implications in your organisation, or in Queensland, or even in Victoria. And if you're setting up large organisational systems or the like, you should be doing that. Actually, one thing I haven't really put in there is the idea of when you would or would not get a road safety audit done as a road authority. And this, usually the state road authorities are quite clear, because there's a policy somewhere that says you must audit here, here, and here on projects above this size, or however it's done. I see a lot of local governments doing audits very haphazardly. They just, one project gets audited and there's another one which is, you know, bigger or the same or higher risk, and it doesn't get audited, and there's no rhyme or reason to that. So what we did in the past update to the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 was to put in a road safety audit policy template at the back of it. And we're just really sort of pleading with councils, just get a policy in place and it'll make everybody's life easier and you'll get better outcomes. So that's another one that I really should add to this. Okay, Kathy.
Thank you, Ken. This is a tricky question. Let's see how you go. Is there a defined or recommended costing for each RSA? So for a concept, detailed design, implementation stages. It seems as though some companies charge a very low rate and force others to follow suit, or cut out site inspections or number of auditors. Is this something being looked at?
It's a very good question. So yes, I mean, there is an industry out there of auditing, and we see this across the board with any industry. And then you're going to get, as soon as you've got competition, people are looking to make things as cheap as possible. So I see us as having a couple of levers here. First of all, we have the road authorities who can put in place different mechanisms to ensure that we're getting the right outcomes, or at least everybody's competing on a level playing field. And I think what we want is a level playing field of competent auditors who are following the same process, and then it should be the cheapest that is being able to do that really good job. Absolutely. But as soon as that comment said, as soon as it's cutting corners that could mean that we're getting a lesser product, it's a slippery slope, and I'm very conscious of that. I put forward a proposal in Vic Roads which didn't get through, but I still think it's got really good merit, and it was to be, you know, really quite strict on the competency requirements of auditors, at least a top tier of auditors, and get a list of 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever it is, and maybe by region. And then instead of the developers or the regions picking the auditor that they want, they just log it with the central body, and the auditor is assigned, and there is a uniform set of rates for the auditing. And then after you audit, you go to the bottom of the list, and then you work your way up, and then the next audit. And so you get this complete randomness in terms of the auditor that is assigned. So it cuts out that potential dodginess of those clients-focused audits, because it could be anybody that randomly is the auditor. It removes some of that lowballing of quotes, and sending the vacation student out to do the site inspection, and who doesn't know anything that they're looking for, and write up the report, and then all of that sort of should be gone, because we're getting this even run. So that would be nice. Again, the administrative burden there seems to be too much for everybody to handle. But what we're seeing is things like these e-learning platforms coming out. Road authorities tend to be better at this in terms of knowing which auditors are doing the right processes and doing a good job, and are only selecting them to quote. So maybe selecting 3 to quote on that, who they know are genuine and really following the correct process. So it weeds itself out a little bit like that. But I think we need to keep working on that, keep auditing the auditors, and hopefully we keep the industry pretty good. As I say, generally I think it's pretty good. There's, of course, like any industry, some areas that need a bit more scrutiny. Kathy, anything else?
Yes, please. How about requesting comment on a certain aspect? So a project may have lots of comments to close, which the auditor may not necessarily pick up as safety issues. But by asking the auditor to comment on that aspect, the RSA can be used to close out that issue. Is there any issue with this process?
No, not really. It just wouldn't be sort of necessarily picked up in an audit finding. It may be an appendix that just says, notes on this, on safety implications of some issues that have been raised. You may just do it as a separate memo and say, you can say, as a senior road safety auditor, here are some answers to these specific questions or the like. But the audit finding table are just for the ones that you have discovered or you feel are the ones that need to be altered or rectified, or the risk managed in those projects.
And is auditing or pricing of audits, is there any standard pricing there, Ken?
No.
Depends on the complexity.
Yeah, there's no standard pricing because of that. So a detailed design audit of a 10-kilometre duplication with a number of intersections is going to be cost a lot of money, because it's going to take a huge amount of time and resources to go through that. Whereas a road safety audit of a new splitter island at a concept stage would be obviously a lot less, or even at a detailed design stage. So it is dependent, and it is quite dependent. The big one that I just shake my head at is the construction site road safety audits that are they're obviously not a road safety audit. They're just somebody's driven through the site and just done some one page of a couple of issues that they've seen. I mean, that adds value to me, to the project, but it's not a road safety audit. It's a sort of just safety review. It's what a surveillance officer should be doing every twice a day, every day on their site. But calling those road safety audit and the sort of dollar figures that come in for something like that is pretty. Well, I suppose it's appropriate dollar figures for what they're actually doing, which is not a huge amount. So no, I can't really advise on the cost, because it's site by site dependent, project by project dependent, and there's travel often involved, and because you've got to go to the site, and so that's The other one that I wanted to bring up before I jump into some of the accreditation and registration of road safety auditors is, where do you draw the line on the limits of work, basically? So if you're doing a project, and I don't know, screen here, I might as well use a little pen. So you've got, oh, okay, there's a little intersection. I don't know how that happened. But you've been asked to do this, an audit of this intersection here, and whatever they've got. They're planning to do a roundabout, and they've got a little tie-in here and a tie-in here and a bit here, and that's it. And you get out there with your audit team and you sort of drive through the site in all directions, which I like to do first off, and dash cam it all. So I've got that on record if I need to go back and look at things later. And then you go down and park the car, and then you walk around the site and you're looking at all sorts of bits and pieces. And, you get back here and you notice there's a misleading sign, maybe, I don't know, it's a cam that's pointing the wrong way. There you go. You go, well, their limits of work's probably there to there. Am I meant to be putting that in my audit report? And you go, well, it's kind of close and it kind of leads into that. You go, yeah, okay. And then you come back here, and then there's this one back here, and this is another kilometre down the road and it's done the same thing. And then you come further back here and you notice there's a power pole close to the road on the outside of the curve, and it's got a big drop off, and you think, oh my God, okay, there's that. And then you keep going back, and then all of a sudden you've done, half the road network. You're finding all these issues. So where do you draw that line? And there's no specific answer to that, but I do say a couple of things. What I usually do in these scenarios is something like that. If I can see it's a direct impact to the site, I put it as an audit finding. If it's really quite far away, but I'm quite concerned about it, I just add it as a second memo with the audit report and alert the road authority to that, just the way anybody could if they see a road safety issue out there. And the reason I don't put it into my audit report is I don't want to cloud the two. I don't want all these other issues that are not part of their project, because I'll sort of always throw the audit report out there. What are they telling me about an intersection up the road for? So I put that aside. And then the challenge you're going to have is that not only when you are a road safety auditor, you have this sort of elevated responsibility to be looking for road safety issues with the infrastructure and alerting people to this. It's sort of one of the moral imperatives that I put on you after you've done this course, is that you're the eyes and the ears really of being able to find these issues out there on the road network and alert people to them to try to stop them being issues that have killed or seriously injured people. But how do you do that when you drive around or walk around and you can just see hundreds and thousands of issues all the time? Well, you've got to really be saying, well, that one's a really high intolerable risk, and they're the ones that you would be wanting to alert your road authority to. But certainly within the audit report itself, keep it fairly well confined to what their limits of work are, or anything in the lead into their limits of work. Otherwise, it will just be thrown out as an audit report to a degree. Okay, Kathy, any questions or comments come in on what I've just been talking about there?
Yes. Do we mention items that may be safety issues in the future? For example, just been involved in the design of a shared path, and the road safety auditor listed the possibility of tree branches growing over the path in the future. Is it standard practice to include items such as maintenance?
So yes and no. I would sometimes in my audits put issues if I can see a future road safety issue that really is going to happen. I mean, vegetation for me is most often that it's going to block sight lines as soon as it grows a little bit and leaves sprout out of it. It's just going to block the sight lines. So that one I do put into audits. The branches and the like, well, the other one are things like saplings that you see in the roadside, because they're going to grow and become hazards and those sorts of things. So they're sort of maintenance style tasks. I don't know the sort of specifics of that one, but I don't think it's I don't think it's unreasonable. The response from the road authority or the receiver of that may be just to say, thank you, and we acknowledge that, and we are going to alert maintenance, and then you flick it over to maintenance and you say, hey, make sure this is in the vegetation trimming contract, which they'll go, yeah, it was in there anyway, maybe, and we've covered that off. So I think that was reasonable from not knowing it at all, but the idea is reasonable. Okay, I'll keep moving on, and what I've done in this modules folder in Schoology and on your memory stick, because of the very jurisdictional requirements for road safety auditing, I've created this table which should help you in understanding what are the requirements to become a road safety auditor, and to become a senior road safety auditor for each jurisdiction. So I've popped a few of them in there, and I do Victoria, Queensland, South Australia. I've just got up here, but I've also put in there Western Australia, New Zealand, Northern Territory and Tasmania. Just basically say, use anybody else's register, and we're okay with that. ACT says use New South Wales. Yeah, so the Victorian one, which is the one I suggest you register with your certificate out of this course, is a requirement that you have some experience in road design, traffic transport management, road safety engineering, and or road user behaviour. I'll talk about this in a little more detail. To become a road safety auditor, which is what you will register for first, there's no minimum years of experience required. To become a senior auditor, you need 5 years experience in one of these fields, one or more of these fields. You need to undertake 5 road safety audits. 3 of those need to be at design stage. And you need to undertake at least 1 audit per year to stay as a senior auditor. Queensland, and our Queensland colleagues can correct me if there's been any recent changes that I've missed on this one. Road safety auditor, they're requiring 5 years experience already, and senior also, yeah, that 5 years, but the 5 audits as well there. And they want 1 audit per year for that maintenance in both. South Australia's the same as Victoria, except for have some other categories that they would like to see experience on. New Zealand has no register of road safety auditors for our New Zealand friends. They simply push it back to every project and say, well, you choose who you get an audit and just make sure they've got the experience and knowledge to be able to do that, just the way you would when you're getting a bridge design or a whatever else it is. So in Victoria, there's these levels of accreditation. There's road safety auditor, there's senior road safety auditor. It's not an age thing, so I could have swapped David there with Cameron and swapped the two. So in Victoria, the road safety auditor, the requirements are that you undertake this course or an equivalent recognised course. You have some experience in road safety engineering, road design, traffic management, or road user behaviour. Now, this Victoria took a philosophy of more auditors, more people who are getting in at that ground level better is the better. Means that they've been through a course like this, they've got insights into road safety, they're looking at things from that lens, they understand the road safety audit process, and let's get them in. And they make it very, very easy. And everybody who's in this course, and we've seen who you are and where you work and a little bit about your background and things like that, you all meet this minimum requirement. To graduate up to this senior status, it gets a little bit harder. You need to do this course or an equivalent. You need to have 5 years experience in road safety engineering, design, traffic management, or road user behaviour. And you need to undertake these 5 audits with a senior road safety auditor. And so this is your mentoring and coaching, and the senior auditors know that they should be getting the auditors to do a bit of the work and really show and teach and learn as well. In Victoria, there's a website to get this, to register yourself and to find the list of auditors. I could actually go to this live. Maybe I'll do that. Kathy, I'll pause there while I go to it live instead of looking at my pre-prepared slides.
Good idea, Ken.
Okay. This is going to be fun. I wonder what I'll discover when doing things live. Always a chance things go wrong. Right, are you seeing the web page?
Yep.
Okay. So the first thing, so this is a VicRoads branded website, but it's hosted under vrsa.com.au, victorianroadsafetyauditor.com.au. ARB hosts it. I actually set it up while I was at VicRoads, and I got in lots and lots of trouble for setting up a website off the VicRoads system, but I just refused to go through that that headache of trying to get this into the system. So set it up, and it's lasted about 15 years, 12 years at least, and very successfully used. So I'm kind of vindicated in my by pushing there. But anyway, the first thing you see is a disclaimer, and the disclaimer says, "Hey, here's a big list of road safety auditors. We can't guarantee any are any good. We just tell you that they've done some minimum things, but we haven't checked their competency in a meaningful way. But we know that they've done a recognised course, and we know that they've done what else? They've got a certain level of experience that we've got from their CV. Now, I mean, this course has some competency requirements. A lot of courses don't. So, you got to take this with a grain of salt, in the sense that you've got a whole list of people, and who knows if any are any good. Okay, agree and continue, and you get into this this spot. And what you're going to do is register for Road Safety Auditor accreditation. And then you're going to register as a Road Safety Auditor. And it says, make sure you've got a copy of your certificate there and a bit of a breakdown of your experience. So you click on that, and you'll go to start. And then you're going to fill out this information. So you're going to fill out your name and your organisation. And over here, you'll notice you can hide any of this from the public if you don't want the public to know your email address, for example, your phone number or whatever it is. So you can do that. And some people do that just because they want to be able to say, I'm a registered road safety auditor, but they've hidden everything. So, I don't know. Anyway, addresses, passwords, and all of that. And there's a bit more stuff. I have to go back to my slides because I don't want to I don't think it'll let me go to the next. Yeah, it doesn't like that. So I'll come back and I'll show you in the web page. But in here, if we go back home, you've got the ability to search for a road safety auditor. So let's go to that. And so you can search by name, by organisation. You can search by required expertise. Now, this is one where you want to really just take it with a grain of salt because it's self-selected. And people put in whatever they want. And a lot of auditors seem to tick everything because I figure they don't want to miss out on a filtering or the like. But then you see you've got this big list of auditors, and what you're seeing is their names, their organisation, email address, phone number, and if they're active or pending. Pending would simply be that they've uploaded something or they've just registered and it's still being checked. Somebody's going to have to check that. So let's go to myself here and click on that. So let's see here. And then it'll say active road safety auditor, senior road safety auditor. There's my details. There's some experience, which I was happy to put out there, such as the VicRoads in different roles. Valid interstate accreditation. So I popped my Western Australian one in there. I could pop in there also my Queensland one and New South Wales one, but I haven't done that. Expertise, well, I have done lots and lots of audits in my time, but I still refuse to put worksite traffic management plans as an expertise. I find it, I just don't have the right mindset for it, I don't think anyway. But certainly all the others I'm very happy to do. Regions available to perform road safety audits. And these are just Victorian regions if somebody only wanted to work in one region or the other. And then what you get are these past audits. Now, this is all the public sees. So here's one. Location, Phillip Island, Victoria, Senior Road Safety Auditor. There's the date of it. It was for the TAC, Transport Accident Commission, and it was a stage 4 bicycle, which is the stages being the preliminary concept, detailed, post-opening, and existing conditions. So they would have been a post-opening audit for some reason. And so then this is all you see, just sort of different audits in there. So that's that. You can log in. You upload a little bit more information behind the scenes for these audits. So what will be behind the scenes for this audit is that it was a point Corcos senior auditor. It was done for Arcadis and stage 2, so it's a preliminary design. And behind the scenes, there will be a contact and a contact number. And the idea being that if Victorian government wanted to audit the auditors, they could randomly pick audits, then request and check that the audit was done by this person, and maybe even get the copy of the audit report. But that really rarely happens. So if I go back to my slides, there was just probably a couple of other things, I think. Now, Kathy, are you still seeing the webpage, or are you seeing my slides now?
Back onto your slides.
So I've taken you through that. You're going to register as the auditor, and you can search for auditors. So through that, that's what we did live. So South Australia's got a slightly different system. It's just a PDF of a list that they update about every 6 months with new auditors, but it's a very similar sort of process. You just need to fill out some forms, which are manual. Well, you download the Word document, you fill it out, you email it in, and then when the next time they update the register, you get put on the register if you meet their requirements. Queensland has another system where it's sort of halfway between, I suppose, and so you can have a look at the TMR website for that one as well. Now, the ones that you can register for from this course are the Victorian one and the South Australian one. The Queensland one, we're just asking TMR to have a review of the course and see if they are happy for that to happen. And the jurisdictions that do their own thing completely are Western Australia and New South Wales. And so the New South Wales one is a little bit, they're in a major review. They're locked into some things that they're not really happy with. So they're doing a bit of a review of that. So we'll see where that lands. The Western Australians have set up a whole sort of program, which is e-learning modules plus it is a formalized mentorship with a senior auditor over time, and quite an intense CDP, continuing professional development requirement, with different courses that they put out. So that's it's a really time-consuming, difficult exercise to stay as a senior road safety auditor in Western Australia. So they've gone the theory with, they want really high-quality auditors on their books. I think they've done themselves a little bit too far of a disservice, because it's very hard to get an audit done in there, and it's very expensive because it's a very limited pool of auditors. And I used to, get phone calls asking me to fly to Perth to do an audit of a local roundabout or something. I'm like, this is insane. This is gone berserk. Just because of the lack of people and the ability to do it. So we want to find the right balance of that sort of stuff. Okay, so this is getting us pretty close to the end. So I'll take questions, and feel free to pop your hand up if you want to chat about it. And then you can unmute yourself after Kathy grants you access, or put things into the chat if you want. but we'll just give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody's got those. And I can then just wrap things up. So anything come through there, Kathy?
Not just yet, Ken.
Okay, well, I'll start a bit of a wrap up. And so the first thing is for people that still have to submit their audit reports or to submit their assignment, their past assignment, please get that in. We want to mark them and get you your certificates fairly quickly. We send you a scanned copy of the certificate, which you can use to upload to the rsa.com.au website and get yourself to become an accredited road safety auditor. As David Williamson said, when you're on that, at some point next year, you're going to be asked to do a e-learning module. I really stress that you are going to be so primed to do that, partly because we wrote the e-learning module, and it's got quite a bit of the same content, or at least the principles are the same. So you'll be pretty fine to get through that, and hopefully it will just maybe be a little refresher for you on some of the stuff you went through. So get that all finished. If you're having trouble, get in contact with us and we'll help you through that. For those that need to do a resubmission just to get you up to that mark, please do so. I think most of you that are in that position, it's not going to take a huge effort to just show us that you do understand some of those intricacies that we're asking for. So jump onto that. Kathy, you're going to have to answer this one. Is there a quiz at the end of this module, or is it freedom from here?
Not quite freedom, sorry. There is one last quiz. So last multiple choice quiz in the module 6 folder, and then it's freedom. So thank you again to everyone who's got your road safety audit report. There's a couple more that came through today that Ken will mark over the weekend probably, and when the others come through, and we'll send you out your certificates from next week. How long is accreditation valid for after you've issued the certificate? For example, if I choose to register in 3 years' time. Interesting. On your to-do list. You didn't quite get around to it.
Yeah. Well, actually, as it sits at the moment, the jurisdictions do. I'm going to talk to Victoria and South Australia at least. I can't quite remember the intricacies. There is no time limit. And this may be part of the reason for these things like this e-learning module, because so you could technically dust off a road safety audit certificate from 10 years ago, put it into the Victorian system, and they would register you as a road safety auditor. Now, that's probably indication as to why they want to do this e-learning, to make sure people who haven't done a course or anything for a long time are getting refreshed on that sort of stuff. We used to have a refresher course, which was a shorter one of these, just touching on what's changed in the past. I think we're going to reinstate that, Kathy, and we're going to sort of come up with just something that existing auditors out there can do. The e-learning module is going to really help in Victoria, but other jurisdictions. And then some people would just want to do that and get a little more up to speed. So it's really up to the jurisdictions who are doing the accreditation as to making decisions on a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Anything else pop in there, Kathy? No? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for their involvement in this course. I alluded to it before, but I really do feel that, as a road safety auditor, which you're about to become in terms of once you fill that registration out, you have that extra responsibility now. I know you're all road safety passionate, committed people before, but you really have that requirement to really stand up and say things if they're presenting risks to the travelling public. So do that, and it is really rewarding. I love the idea of being able to predict crashes, before they happen and try to stop them happening. And especially if it's a design exercise that that is only going to cost changes to the lines on a bit of paper or in CAD, how great is that we can get better outcomes? So enjoy doing it, and I'm available to answer questions as you go. Happy to send you example audit reports of different things if you've got a random question about different aspects of it. If you're interested in doing audits in other countries, let me know. Road safety audits are pretty much an internationally recognized thing, and I can point you at some different manuals and assistance in that perspective, and that's a wonderful thing if you're interested in traveling, if we're ever allowed to actually leave the country, and being able to inject road safety into other nations. So you've got an exciting opportunity in front of you if you want to take it on. But if you just have this now as something within your set of knowledge, that's a wonderful thing as well, and you'll be able to inject that into your projects. Thank you, Kathy, for looking after the prize pit there. You've done a wonderful job, and all the trivia questions, and making sure I didn't have to read stuff as well as present. And we thank you all for your participation. We've obviously recently put this as an online course. You usually get trapped in a room with me for a number of days, but I hope you've enjoyed it and managed to find the best out of an e-learning platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for imparting all your experience with everyone, and thanks. It's been a great group. Really enjoyed the participation and the comments and everything else that's come through. So thanks everyone, and stay in touch.
Bye.